This is the entrance to Sandy's house. He lives here with his wife and his two little crabs, Peter and Emma, who are twins. Sandy built his house all by himself, but the twins helped make the driveway, which was lined with seaweed and flowers. And they helped when Sandy was making a space around the back of the house for sunbathing. One day, Sandy was doing some odd jobs in and around the house. He'd put up some pictures and fixed a broken swing. Now he was mending the entrance to the hole where they lived, while keeping a sharp lookout for anyone who might be passing by. He was a very shy and nervous crab, and quite often he and his family would scamper into the house if they saw someone passing by. Today the sky was blue as he did his work, but there were 3 clouds high above. One was directly over Sandy's head, and 2 were off in the distance. There were birds flying in circles above the calm sea. He knew these birds were looking into the sea for fish. They circled and looked, and when they spotted a fish, they would dive in and grab it in their beaks. They held on tightly to their catch and swooped out of the water, flying to the beach where they sat and ate their meal. Sandy watched all this, but most of all he watched the 2 clouds in the distance. They were beginning to look darker than when he first saw them. He knew he had to finish his repairs soon, because those clouds meant there was a storm coming. The 2 clouds were drifting together now. They drifted nearer and nearer to the crab's family home. The nearer they got, the bigger they looked, and blacker. Pretty soon the 2 clouds got together and became one giant mass. It seemed to spread right over the sea. But worst of all, it had blotted out the sun and made everywhere very gloomy. Sandy hurried as fast as he could. He had to get this job done before it started to rain. The wind was blowing very hard. It was so strong, it almost threw him off his feet as he did his work. It made a loud whistling noise like a train whistle in his ears. It whisked the sand around his feet. There was sand blowing about everywhere. It was so strong, it blew the wet seaweed up into the air. The birds that were fishing had been blown about so much, they'd left the sea in a crooked line and gone inland to find shelter from the storm they knew would come. Sandy kept on working. The giant cloud had almost reached him. It meant to join up with the other one over his head. The giant cloud held the rain that would pour down on him and his home and his family. The wind would blow and blow, and the rain would rain and rain. And if his house wasn't repaired just so, they would lose everything in the storm. Peter and Emma had seen the storm coming as well. So, with their mother, they came running out to help Sandy. The 4 crabs were running in and out of the hole. Each time they came out, they had a spade full of sand that had been blown into the house by the wind. They stood at the entrance of the hole and threw the sand a good distance away. They did this again and again. Peter could throw further than Emma, but she didn't mind, just as long as she could help. Soon there was a mound of sand outside the hole. Sandy started to push the mounds of sand higher and higher. He was building a wall. It had to bend right around the house and be high enough and strong enough to save them. He must make it 4 centimetres high and 2 centimetres thick. It had to stop the sea from coming down the hole, the wind from blowing everything to bits, and the rain from washing it all away. Suddenly, they felt a drop of water on their heads, then 2 drops, then another, and another. It had started to rain. Sandy, Susie, Peter and Emma had just enough time to finish when it started to really pour. The rain fell as if someone was throwing buckets of water from the sky. It rained into the sea. It rained on the cows in the field who ran under the trees for shelter. It rained on the dogs walking along the beach, on the birds, on the cats, on the tin roof of all the beach houses, and if you were there, it would have rained on you too. All the crab family were inside now. They could hear the rain and they were glad to be dry and comfortable. The twins were playing a game of hide and seek. Susie was getting Sandy a cup of tea, and they all listened to the wind howl and shake their home. Suddenly, the twins came running into the room where Mum and Dad were. "Mummy! Mummy, the rain is coming through the roof!" Emma said. Everyone rushed into the other room to see. There was a big sag in the roof. They could tell the water in the sand would burst through any time now. Sandy had everyone run and get buckets to catch the water, but he could see it was too late. The whole thing was about to fall. He made everyone go back to the room they had just come from, but that room had water dripping from the roof as well. There were dark patches on the wall. The water was dripping into Sandy's tea. The chair where he had been sitting was soaked. Water was running down the pictures hanging up and made the faces in the frames look as if they were crying. The place was about to be flooded out. There was no time to pack, no time to finish his tea, or to take a ginger biscuit. They had to get out, and get out now. Sandy sent the twins ahead with his wife, and when they were out of the door, he set off. As he looked back, he could see the roof fall. Down came the sand and the water. Everything began to float. The table and chairs, toys, books, tools, everything. He looked at it all. Their house was ruined and all their belongings destroyed. He looked and he wondered, what would they do now? Outside, it was still windy and wet and cold. The wall he had built to protect the entrance was almost washed away. Emma and Peter were crying. They loved their home and were very sad to see what was happening to it. They cried for all their lost toys, especially for Miss Stripey Legs and Peter's favourite blue car with the left front wheel missing. They ran to their parents and gave them a big hug because they could see how sad they were too. Then, led by Sandy, they turned and walked up the beach. They walked and walked and got wetter and wetter and wetter. After they'd been walking for quite some time, the children started to get hungry. Susie was trying to comfort them, and Sandy was getting more and more worried. He had to find another home for his family. Sandy and Susie started to talk together and talked about what they could do to find a new place to live. They were so busy talking that they didn't notice that Peter and Emma were not walking with us. Emma and Peter held hands and pushed against the wind to go in search of food. Even though they were wet through and cold and frightened because they could see how worried their mother and father were, the twins were so hungry they had to find something to eat. Suddenly they looked up. Through the rain they saw a rock. They started to run. It looked good. They thought they had seen an opening somewhere under the rock. They were right. As Peter and Emma got nearer, they could see it was quite a large opening. Soon they reached the rock and crawled into the space, and what a surprise! When they got inside, it was the most beautiful cave they had ever seen. It was the perfect size. There was room enough for Sandy, Susie and the twins. They ran back to their mum and dad. They were jumping up and down. It was so exciting they could hardly get the words out. Their claws had to mind the way the cave was partitioned off, and the height of the ceiling, and the way the rocks formed to make shelves and arches. Sandy took hold of his wife as they were led to what the twins had found. Sandy and Susie could hardly believe it. Straight away they started to plan. These could be the twins' rooms, and this the sitting room, and this would make the biggest kitchen Susie had ever seen. They all agreed it was the best place anywhere. This was going to be their home, forever. The twins had saved the day. Peter and Emma were heroes. Sandy had managed to find something for them to eat on the beach. Outside, the wind was still roaring, and the rain was still raining, and it was still cold. But inside was a very, very happy crab family. They had lost their sand house, but now they had an even better home. Tonight they had to sleep on the floor, but they were safe. And tomorrow, they were going shopping.